To the Break Room Classic Film fans, it's tea time for a coffee break. Welcome to another Fashion Friday. Last week, I introduced you guys to the garment I am most asked about. This week, introducing you to the second piece I am most asked about, my Calloway suit. Okay, backstory. Get your coffee. I learned of Calloway. I knew Calloway the way a lot of people may have known Calloway, through Minnie the Moocher singing on the Blues Brothers. Like that little bubble was like my introduction to Calloway. Now I have to admit, I did grow up in a very musical family thanks to my dad. I mean, anything from Jackie Wilson, Sam Cooke, Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers, Little Richard, James Brown, Johnny Mathis, Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters. I mean, it was really an endless catalog of music that I grew up with. But I like to think that Calloway was my own personal contribution when I got older. I mean, it really got to be an obsession with me to the point that my mom was like, "You have a crush on him, don't you?" Yes, I do. And I'm sure old Hollywood fans can understand. When you get to the point where you have grown up and you discover that, yeah, you know, these people were once young, it's like Don Amici. I went to my mom like, "Did you know Don Amici did other things outside of Cocoon? Why didn't anybody tell me?" And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, "What? I wasn't here. I didn't know. I just saw Cocoon and thought that was it." It's like you're mind blown that you find out all these people that you knew as they were older, yeah, they were young once. So anyhow, Minnie the Moocher, I don't think re-registered for me until I got older and started doing theatrical productions. And being a longtime Betty Boop fan, I mean, like when I was a kid, you know, it's the Hello Kitty. For me, it was Betty Boop. So yeah, gifts and everything, like tote bags, pencils, buttons. Yeah, I was the Betty Boop girl. So it's like I kept finding different renditions of Minnie the Moocher, discovering Betty Boop with Minnie the Moocher. What? Another mind blown. When you see his live action in the beginning of the cartoon, the Max Fleischer talkertoon, that supposedly is like the first images that we get, live action images that we get of Calloway. And can you imagine in 1932, like by this time, he's already a big name, right? So you're hearing that on the radio coming live from the Cotton Club, and now you're able to see him in action. Like, I can only imagine what that felt like to see what must have been coming through your radio, that energetic sound, and then to see it live action, the way that he moves across that screen. I mean, it's like repeat. I kept looping it over and over and over and over. I couldn't get enough of it. So that made the connection of me discovering Calloway outside of just the Blues Brothers and made me want to discover everything he had ever done. I mean, it got not bad. I don't want to say it got bad. It got good. DVDs I started getting, books, any kind of books I could get, CDs or any kind of MP3, any kind of music I can get. I was trying to soak everything up. So discovering Minnie the Moocher, the 1932 talkertoon short, opened up a world of Calloway to me that I didn't even know existed. Then became more of a researching thing, writing things down, and was like I have to know more about him. Going from him goes into his sister, Blanche Calloway, who I found out was just as big of a star in her own right before he was. And he would give her often credit for bringing him into the business the way that he was, because she had her own all-male band, Blanche Calloway and her Joy Boys. How cool is this? He even had his own Hepster's dictionary in 1938, though some sources say 1939, but to my knowledge, it's 1938. It went out of print, and it was even in the New York Library as like the official reference to like Hep lingo. come on. Minnie the Moocher became so hypnotic to me that, you know, it's amazing how in such a short song we get this full story. And I was like, that's a good production right there based on Minnie the Moocher, just the song, that three-way triangle. So I had to come up with something, make a story that was loosely based on Minnie the Moocher, you know, with her character and her Smokey Joe, and then her King of Sweden comes in, you know, filling her head with all the sparkles and the diamonds and the jewels and the money and the race horses and big cars and, you know, trips. It was like, that's the story. And speaking of my production, I'm going to take you guys in my workroom and kind of break down to you what went into creating the theatrical production itself. See you in a bit. All right, so I'm going to introduce to you guys how the process works for a show. So each show that I come up with gets its own binder. And in this binder includes sketches that I have pulled from multiple portfolios that I have sketches in, looking to potentially use for that particular show. And on the back of each sketch comes what I need to create that particular garment. Everything that, you know, from the fabric I want to use, the color, if there's any extra embellishments, things of that nature, as well as how many yards that I'm looking to potentially use. And when I start to hone it down on which pieces I want to actually make to create for the show, I start marking them with the scene that I'm looking to use them in. And as you can tell, Zazzy Zaz and Harlem Hospitality being Calloway songs, which were both songs used in the final production. And not every piece ends up making the cut, but as you will see, something that might look a little familiar to you is the back of this garment, this piece, the tails, which at the time when I had sketched this out, I had not intended on using as the piece that it ended up becoming, the Cab Calloway. At the time, it was called Buckle Up. Basically, it just, when I was going through my sketches, I was like, oh my gosh, I've already sketched this. Like when I was trying to find what can I do for a closing act, a closing number that I was going to wear, and I was like, this is it, you know. So I just basically reconstructed it to fit the Cab Calloway style, the Cab Calloway cut. And you might also recognize this is just a rough sketch of what ended up becoming what I call the Dames outfit used in the actual production. And, you know, in the actual production, it is a process. You know, everything gets outlined first, and everything just starts getting toned down the closer and closer it comes to preparing for the actual show, taking out what numbers, you know, I don't have time for, or, you know, or run time or things like that. And everything is also provided to the actors. So that way they can, when I type, you know, the outline out and make it tighter, I start, you know, including like Gold Diggers of 1933, 5, 7, Dames, 42nd Street, films that were used as inspiration for the actual show, and music. So that way they have something to take with them and study and kind of research on their own to get a feel of the period that, you know, the production was inspired by. Because everything I do is classic film inspired, including, as you're going to see, We're in the Money, with Pig Latin included. As with Ginger Rogers and Gold Diggers of 1933, this was my outline because I had to learn this quick, fast, and in a hurry. And then the final processing being putting each garment underneath the scenes that I've chosen. So now we have the pieces that I've chosen, and we have the scenes that I've chosen, and I start putting those, matching those up together. last thing that might look a bit familiar is the Betty Boop dress. This was the opening number. So from here, from my sketch, came the fitting of that dress, of that garment, and just to make sure everything lines up and looks the way that it's sketched. So it's a large process, and what ended up being our mascot, if you want to call it that, was the wolf, which my mom actually had come up with at the time, and I've just stuck with using it ever since as the sort of our mascot, and having the Cab Calloway-esque zoot suit on, but he was actually based on the MGM cartoon, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with. And she was like, that would be such a cute idea. And so it was a family discussion. My mom and dad, I was always looking to them to, okay, so what do you guys think? They were like my board members. So anyhow, that's how the wolf was created and designed and has been continued to be used. So this is just to give you a little behind the scenes on what goes into creating a show. All right, guys and dolls, that wraps up this week's Fashion Friday. I hope you had a good time. I hope to see you guys on Monday, where we're going to get a bit cinematic. I'm going to bring to you the first pages of the society. So bring your coffee, and we're going to do our verbal film. We're going to take our virtual vacay together as I begin reading to you from the society. I am so excited to be able to share this with you guys and hopefully take your minds away from reality at present. I know, I'm there, I'm living there, just like everyone else who is trying to do something to get through. And I hope that we can get through this together. I hope we're all encouraging and uplifting one another, especially those of us who can't afford to go out. We can't, you just have to see it through the window. Anything you have to do to put a smile on your face, it could be something simple. For me, it's this. It's being able to hopefully connect with you guys. It's being able to, okay, like, I'm just gonna dress up every day anyway, just when I did when life was normal. I even did something small, like switching my lamp over. It did something for me. It made me happy to want to come in my room again. Anything you need to do to get through this, let's do this together. Let's be well, let's stay healthy, let's stay home. It is getting so frustrating to me. Let's stay home and let's help each other through this. The longer that we're not staying home, the longer this is going to take. So let's work together. All right. So that's enough of my pep talk for today. I'm hoping not to have to do that every time that we have our coffee talk, because this is what this is about, having coffee talk to forget about reality for a moment. So see you guys Monday. Take care until then. A bientôt. Doing all these discoveries that I was finding, looked on the shelves of the family library, the family library books, and see like a section of like jazz books. So pick one out, open, of course, going straight to Cab Calloway's name. You know how you look in the back and you're going through the glossary of like your favorite film star or your favorite musician, and you're like, okay, what pages is he on? Yeah, Cab Calloway was in the book. Not only was I buying books about him, we had some in the house the whole time, and I never even knew it.